magazine last year, and the same old boy Corwin, a British turner, he came out this last year with this incense burners. The Nutcracker's an interesting little project. These are a little bit easier to me because it's not as much detail on the arms and legs and stuff. And it's a fun little old project to do if you'll try one. That probably went out, but they usually do pretty good. First thing, as with the Nutcracker, you have to have a base, and they're saying using a 5/8. I got to where I like to use the MDF. I can take my router, I just turn a circle, and which the base is about 3, 3 1/8, 3 1/4. If you use a router, depending on your bit and the profile, you may have to check and see that your feet line up because they're a little bit thicker. But I just take a piece of MDF and then I take my router with my, and I put usually a chamfer or OG. And it's simple, cheap. 3/4 is a little tall. The first one I did was on a 3/4 base. And if you look at the 3/4 base, you'll see it's a little bit taller. If you hold them by the leg because they come apart at the body.
Like that.
And I'll let that one go because the fishing pole will break off easier than that will. But as you see, it's in 2 sections. You have a base unit, which is the legs and the incense holder and the base. And then you have the upper body and head and whatever design you want to put on it. And you can use your imagination on how you decorate them. The fishing guy over there was just something, I was just sitting there, and the book shows the wood turner and a farmer with a basket. And that's the first one I did, was the wood turning. Then I was sitting there one day and I said, well, I'm going to try a fisherman. So I thought, well, you got to have a net. And I said, well, how am I going to make a net? And grandson likes to turn key rings. So them little old key holders, I got the smallest ring. And I said, well, I'll go down to Hobby Lobby and see if I can get some netting that they decorate, women decorate ocean stuff. Usually they'll buy that netting. You can buy it over there. I just cut a little piece off, wrapped it around that little old key ring, and spray painted it white. I didn't want a red net. So spray painted it white, and it turned out pretty good. And the fishing pole, we was eating one night at the Japanese restaurant, and they have stuff on a skewer. So I just took the skewer, and that's the fishing pole, and you just take a little piece of dowel and make like a rod on it. And that one there, I noticed when I brought it down, I said, well, that one there's it's a double-edged weapon. It's sharp pointed, so I guess you can stab your fish if it gets away. But anyway, when you're turning this kind of stuff, imagination. If you just can imagine something that you want to turn, and they have on your internet, they'll have several different figures, so you can just go wild with it. But after you get the base, then you'll come in and do your legs, and the legs are. And I glued this one up already on the incense holder.
Just hold them up.
7/8, and they're about 2 inches tall. And then you have separate little old feet, which I just took a piece of 3/8, and it'll have dimensions on your handout. They're 7/8 wide, and they're about inch long is what these turned out. And then you just design them like shoes and glue them onto your feet. And then once you get your feet, you put your incense holder on. And then when you get to there, you take and I hate to say, if you do this, don't do any if you're going to get to your beer bottle lid, don't do any drinking while you're turning. Wait till you get through or do it some other time. But it takes a Coke lid, which is what I use, but it's a beer bottle lid. It's got to be metal because you're going to have some heat that would build up off of when the incense gets down low. And you center it up, and that'll determine your air holes. And you'll have to drill 2 holes, and they're 1/4 inch. And you'll drill one, you drill them usually with your feet, so it's going to be the front and the back will be all the room you'll have to drill your air hole. And that's for the circulation. It works like a stove. Air comes in from the bottom and goes out through the mouth, and I see that one out. But anyway, once you get that in, you'll hot glue it on to your base, drill your holes for that. Which you get to the body, you'll see the body, and I've got 2 different ones here. One that's got the hole for the airway. But you rough out your body, it'll be 3 inches tall, and it's about 2.5 wide. And you hollow out up into the inside within 1/4 inch or so of the top. Then once you get that, you're going to have to wrap it in for your base to fit up inside. The base turns up in, it'll set up inside as you've seen when it's come apart, and that's for that one there. But another base will be, here's one with the holes drilled in it. So you can see how that fits together. And then once you get that, you're pretty well sailing. You'll get into the, after you do your legs, your base, you'll glue your legs onto the incense holder. Then you'll turn your body. And then the arms, they're going to be tapered. They're 1 inch and 11/16 tall. And they're 1 1/4 inch wide at the widest point on the bottom, and you just taper them into the middle. And then your arms, or your hand part, I take a dowel, and I cheat on it a little bit for time-wise. And I take a 5/8 dowel, and I'll just take that, center that up, and I'll turn down. You'll see on your handout you'll have it. It just tapers down with a round ball for his hand. And I just take that dowel, and then I'll come in on the top after I make my ball. I'll come in and you'll taper it in to make your arm. And that's a quick way of doing it, just with a dowel. What I use for the body is the Hobby Lobby has the square popular. And this one happens to be 2.5, 2.5. And if you'll just turn that round, it'll work out for your body. I bought this piece, it was 4 foot long, and they have different lengths, but 4 foot I think was like $14. Popular turns good, it's good, used a lot in toys and stuff, it's stable, and it turns good, and that's a easy way of doing that. It's laminated, so, but if you want to do it out of regular wood, you can figure your block out, and that works too. In fact, the first one I turned passing around was made out of a piece of basswood. Basswood, I don't particularly care for turning much. It's okay, it's soft, but it's fuzzy. It's a lot of work to finish it sanding. But the popular, I like it. Good stable wood, cheap. And you'll see some dimensions in here, like I take a piece of plywood on the incense holder. I take a piece of plywood and I just draw me some circles. And if you'll bandsaw it a little bit bigger, then you can turn it on your lathe and true it up. Unless you do real good bandsawing. If you do that, you don't worry about it. But me, I think the older I get, the more nervous I get. You can't see, so I just make mine a little bit bigger, and then I'll turn it down to size to fit up into the hollow of the body. But that's all I take for the incense. I just take, you'll see I draw circles on it and go to work with a bandsaw, and that works good. When you get to the head, you're going to turn, and I'll show you what little I know. Which that's been an experiment, is turn a ball freehand. If you have one of them attachments, then you won't have any trouble. But the first one I turned, it wasn't much of a head. It was more like I don't know what you call it, a flying saucer. The first 2 or 3 times you're going to wonder, how do you get a ball round? And I'll show you a little bit, and you'll have to perfect it by doing it. The more you do it, the easier it is. But to turn a ball freehand is just a little trick. That's 2 inch, so that's the head. And I'll show you here what little I know about it. And maybe you can make heads or tails out of it. And if you try it at your house, you'll see what we're talking about. My excess out of the way.
One overhead.
Marker.
If you want it to go overhead, let me know. Find your way.
And I'll just rough in, usually I'll start at 2 inch. I'm gonna start it out at like about 2 3/8, and it'll get down to 2 pretty fast. And all I'm doing is, I'm just getting a mark in there about where 2 inches will be. We'll see, go from there. Then once I get to start figuring that out, I'll start back about 1/4 of the radius back, and I'll start inching in toward the middle, each side, top and bottom. And it's just what works for me. However you want to do it, that's fine. As long as you can get a 2 inch, like I say, if you got the attachment, you don't have no trouble. And then you just keep working back around. And what I usually do, I'll take a cross reference, I'll get a center, and I'll get me a cross reference mark. And once I see a cross reference mark, I can start rounding it in my mind. I can start getting the more rounded shape and not get the oblong, hopefully. And then once you reach that point of 2 inches, then it gets easier because you're going to bring it back around. And a lot of it's eyeball. Most people make a mistake right in this area right here. They go in too flat right off the bat. Then a tool that Hal didn't want, that I got to where I like, he gave me this tool. I reach in. He set me in the shop one day and I looked at it and he said, well, here, you just have it. I don't like it. I took it home. He asked me the next time I came over, he said, how'd you like that tool? I said, that's the best thing you ever did me. See, once you get all this point right in here, once you get it established close, then you're going to be in on a circle because you can see what a circle is. And you keep working it around. And I always have a center mark right here where I know where half and half is close to it. And then that would be the way that I would turn the circle. And anybody however you get to a circle, doesn't matter. Just get to a circle. All right. And you see, as you're working it, you see with a little more out of here, but you just keep working that down, get a 2-inch. Then once you get to 2-inch,
What kind of tool is
well,
that? What kind of tool is that?
it's what do they call that thing?
Just hold it up on your work. No, on your work. Just a second. Okay.
Well, you can't really see it, it's not much, I'll pass it around. I like it. I do a lot of detail. I bought a 1/4-inch bowl gouge, and you can do good with the 1/4-inch. You can get in fine, tight places with it and do pretty good with it. Let's see. Where's one of the bodies? That'd be one of the bodies that went around back. I'll show you. The critical thing on this whole project is this. Once you get that established on your body, that other body passed around, there's 3 flat spots on there. You put a flat spot on where the head goes on, and usually that's going to be approximately 3/4 circle inch. Then you're going to put one on each side where the arms go on. You'll flatten the bottom of your head, and then when the critical point in this is lining up how to drill it. Once you get the body in there, you'll come down, and I just take and eyeball it. I'll set that head up in there about where I think it ought to go, and just you look in there and you'll see right here is where the mouth is. Well, it's going to have to hit into the body. And what I did on that, you'll just line up a hole, and I'll show you that in a minute. It's a 1.25 inch in, and I'm falling down off the top of it about 1 inch, and looks like this one's about 1.8 inches. Works out pretty good. You take a 1/4 inch bit, and I use my vise. But you'll take a 1/4 inch bit, and I drill the head first, and I'll show you why in a minute. Once I get the head drilled, and I see I have it all the way through, then I can take and set it up there just before it comes out. If you'll set it up there and just barely get into it, you'll have a place lined up to where this hole and that hole lines up. And that's critical because the smoke probably worm its way out of there, but make it easy as you can. And then you just come in on your head or your body, and you just drill a 1/4 inch hole in there, and that lines that up. When I'm gluing it, I just take a piece of dowel, and I'll just stick it in the mouth in here, and I'll stick this one on there, and it won't fall down the hill and slide away and everything else, because you can run a dowel in there and stick it in there, and then it'll stay while it's dry. First one I did, I'd have to come back every once in a while. It'd want to slide down the hill. You'd have down to his belly, you'd have his head if you wasn't careful. And then on the arms, like I say, with the arms, you'll see flattened out place on the sides. And you'll flatten out a place, and you'll have to lay it off. Once you get the head in, then you can lay the arms off at whatever position you just eyeball position on them. Flatten your place on your body, and then the flat goes to the flat, and just glue them on. They're saying dowel them. I don't go to the trouble of doweling them. If you want to dowel them, it's no problem. But what you got to be careful if you dowel into this. Don't get into the side, because that's an air leak. He may have smoke coming out under his armpits. But that would be about how that would go. And then, like I say, for furbishing them, you can do. Oh, there's just so many things you can do. The hat wise, on that one I wanted kind of a fishing hat, so I kind of burlap painted it in a off yellow color to look like it was a straw hat. Baseball cap, and that's what I'm going to show you here in just a minute. When you get into the baseball cap, you'll start off with a deal like this, which if it's a baseball cap, you want it flat. Don't taper it up like a sun hat. Do it flat, and I'll explain that in just a second. But you turn a piece like this first to get a baseball cap, and then fit it on the head. And while I'm on the lathe, I'll hollow out up into the end where it'll fit on the head. In other words, I've got it right here. I'll take my hat, will be like this. You're going to turn it this way. Okay, then you'll hollow out, and I get it where it'll fit on the head. Once I get it fit on the head, a baseball cap has a bill. So you just come in here and just rough cut, and you'll measure out and get it squared up. But you'll just rough mark you a bill. Then you're going to take a coping saw, and you'll come in on the side, and you'll coping saw around the hat up into where it hits. That's why it's got to be flat, because your bill's going to be flat on a baseball cap. And then you just you'll coping saw all the area right in here. You'll coping saw that around, and all you'll have is a bill. Well, then once I get it down to there, in all this stuff, a tool that you will really find that you can do some work with, a Dremel. I bought this one over to the Hobby Lobby, and they're not that bad expensive. And I just put a regular sanding bit on the end of it. Well, after I get all this cut out, you're going to be a little rough with it. And then you just take your sander and sand off that side, and it'll make a baseball cap. Let's see, got a baseball cap right here. And there's a baseball cap. And you have to play with them and kind of make them. The first one may not look good to you, but try another one. This is a deal where the more you practice, the better you'll get at it. And there's a ton of different hats you can do. Like I say, that one has a summer fishing hat, what I call it, or a garden hat. They're fairly easy. That's just this here. It's just a baseball cap with a rim all the way around it, is what it is. And then everything I'm gluing, I like the original Type Bond, and that's my preference. Whatever preference of glue you want, fine. Yeah, but I find Type Bond will do as good. Only time I use any other off-the-wall Type Bond will be if I'm doing treated lumber, and that's a whole different project. Other than that, I use original. The incense cones, I found these over to Walmart in the candle department where they sell incense, and I found they had several different cones, and it's a cone incense. And once you get there, then the painting, I paint with just regular crackers acrylic. I get that at the Hobby Lobby. And the Hobby Lobby have a lot of stuff that if you decorate it, they'll have different decorations. And like I say, you can just go wild with what figure you want to turn. I don't think I've ever tried to turn anything, and everything I turn's been men. Not to have anything against women, but if you want to do women, you can do women. That'd be okay. But that is the painting. And other than that, if you look at your guide, it'll make sense to you. And I know it's kind of rushing through. And if you have any questions after we get done, or if you have any questions now, we'll take questions. I like doing them. I burn them in the house every once in a while. I'm more turning more traditional stuff. Some of the modern stuff kind of goes by me. It's pretty, but I just don't have an interest in it. I lean more towards traditional things and simple things. These are simple to make. These are a lot easier to make really than the nutcracker. And I say that if you do the nutcracker right, doing the jaw takes a lot of time. And the magazine that I got this out of, you may could find it online or something. It's the British wood turning mag. Hal said they went out of business, so I don't know what difficulty you'd have finding it. And this one here was, let's see, this was in November of 2016, issue 298. So, and it has colored diagrams of everything, step by step. When I did that, the one with the lathe, that was the first one. And as you see on there turning on the lathe, that's supposed to be a lamp stand that he's turning on the lathe. But other than that, it's a good fun project. It doesn't take very long to do one. And just have fun. Any questions? I hope that made sense. Maybe, if not, I didn't hear any snoring, so I guess we kept everybody awake. But other than that, it's yours.
Okay, a couple real quick things.